So this one, we're not learning anything new. This section is entirely, well, I mean, it says it at the end. It says symbolically, which may not even click or make sense when you read it. If you look through the section, it's about doing the derivatives that we've already learned, but you will not be given an actual function. So you're going to have to find the answers either from like a table or a picture or something. You're not going to know actual equations. So when it says symbolically, it basically means F and G. I'm going to halfway skip number 1 here, because this doesn't really fit into this section somewhat for me, but whatever. This just says find f prime of 0.1. So if you guys were given this question on the AP test, what would you do? Because honestly, this is similar to questions you will get. And you can't directly find the real answer from the table. Oh, maybe we should do number 1.
Yeah, I should.
Okay, we definitely can. Does anybody have an educated guess?
Do you do like changing y over changing x with like
Yeah.
0.2 and 0.1?
Yep. You made it. Welcome. Oh, I did actually put you somewhere, but I can't remember where. I feel like it was over here somewhere.
Where the open is.
Yeah, I just picked one. I didn't actually print a seating chart yet, so it really doesn't matter. So if we're asked to find, the downside to meetings in the morning is nothing gets set up. We're asked to find the slope at 0.1. Since you can't directly find it, you're just going to have to guess or estimate as best you can. So we will find the slope between these 2 spots. And that's really all we can try. I guess theoretically you could pick farther away, but as close a numbers as you can pick would be a better estimate. The best possible choice would be if we had a number before 0.1 as well, so then we could kind of tell what was happening, but we don't. So our estimate for f prime of 0.1 would be 0.433 minus 0.261 over 0.2 minus 0.1. I have no idea what that actual answer is, nor do I actually care. But that's how you would find it. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions? Maybe, do you want me to write where these numbers came from? Are you okay with this part? I mean, I should have done a better job with notation. I should have written f of b minus f of a over b minus a, but if we're trying to estimate a slope, we just pick as close to 2 points as we can. Now, example 2, vastly different kind of question. That's why I originally was going to skip number 1, is because number 2 is nothing like it. It's still considered symbolic because we don't really have any equations. I need to start calling it people. Neil, so if we look at A, we're trying to do f of g of x.
Yes.
We don't often write it like that, but f of g of x is actually like the definition of chain rule when we did derivatives. So I put it up on both whiteboards so you guys could at least see it. I guess now you have your packets. It's actually in your packets if you want it. At the beginning of 3.1, that's where the chain rule is. It's the derivative of a composite function. So I was hoping what you could help me with The derivative is supposed to be f prime of g of x times g prime of x. How do we do that from a table?
For f prime of g of x, you take g of x at 2, which is 3. So it'll be f prime of 3.
Can I pause you for a second because I'm writing really slow? You're absolutely correct. So we're supposed to be finding all of them at x equals 2. So start over again.
So g of x is what we need to put in for f prime.
Good.
Of x. So g of x at 2 is 3, so f prime of 3, and then times g prime of x, which is -1.
Okay. And then f prime of 3 was what?
F prime of 3 is -2.
Okay, perfect. Even the way you explained that was honestly pretty good because it's difficult to try to explain this one without writing anything. So I wanted to put the chain rule up on the board because I knew a lot of you wouldn't just know it off the top of your head. F prime of g of x, that's like when we do the power rule, but keep the same parentheses, right? So when you do the power rule, that's like f prime. But when you keep the same parentheses on that power rule, that's like saying g of x, because that was what was there from the start. And then we would take the derivative of the parentheses at the end. You know, we called it u prime, but that's the same thing as saying g prime. And that's how all of the chain rules are set up. I didn't teach it that method because just for some people that method makes 0 sense and it really screws them up teaching chain rule. So I try to teach chain rule more from a generic perspective, like being able to visualize it in your head. But I also know for some students that's much easier to handle. This is going to be very similar to like the inner and outer that you would have already done. It's like saying the derivative of the outer, that'd be f prime, and then the derivative of the inner would be g prime. So there's different ways to approach chain rule. It's very difficult to teach because a lot of people just picture it differently to themselves. But the way you set this up was great. So the first thing we had to find was g of x. So g of 2 was 3. And we put that in place of g of x, or g of 2. And then f prime of that answer would be the next thing you find, which was -2. G prime of 2 was the chain rule at the end, which was that -1. That's how a lot of these questions are going to go. This is pretty much today in a nutshell. You're going to have to look at the information you're given and then try to figure out the final answer by using the table information because we don't have an equation. They're not all going to be as straightforward as A. I thought that would be a good one to start with just because it's the definition, so it's semi-straightforward. Are we okay with what's up there for A? Okay. Let's go to B. Was it Neil? Neil. Choose somebody else for me for the second one. I don't have a seating chart printed with numbers yet for us to have our automatic choosing.
Andrew.
Andrew, do you think you can help me with B? Otherwise, I can certainly guide you guys if you want some help. Okay. I figured the easiest way for us to do this would be kind of just work through these problems together because there's not really anything to teach from it.
So I put the 3 out in the front, and then that x squared.
3 out front. I'll just put f of 2 in there right away, but you're correct. F of x squared.
And then times f prime of 2.
Perfect. Then the chain rule would be the derivative of the inside. Do you want to keep going? You want somebody else to help you out?
I can keep
Okay.
So then f of 2 is negative 4. And then f prime of 2 is 8. And then negative 4 squared is 16 times 8.
Oh, I have no idea what 24 times 8 is, or 24 times 16.
384.
Please tell me you have a calculator over there. Did you do that in your head?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, no,
Oh, you wrote it on paper? I was gonna say that may be discouraging to your classmates if you're just doing that in your head. They're gonna feel that that's a curve breaker. Okay, I'm gonna guess you probably are starting to feel these are all somewhat similar. Let's try to pick out of these two, which one do you feel is more difficult?
D.
D? Okay, then let's do D. So we are trying to find R prime of 2. We've got quotient rule, which is partially annoying because they're both labeled F and G. So quotient rule is going to be G prime. No. GF prime minus FG prime. Low D high minus high D low. So G of X times derivative of the top. Derivative of the top is where we have to pause a little bit. How do I do the derivative of f of 2 of x? Because that probably feels kind of different to some of you. It's not just f prime of 2 of x.
F prime of 2 of x times 2.
Where'd you get that from?
The derivative of 2x is 2.
Oh, okay, why'd you do that?
Because the chaining.
Okay, that works. That's perfect. So whatever your parentheses is, whatever your information is, when you're doing the derivative, you're always going to be taking the derivative of what's there, so like f prime of 2 of x, and then multiplying by the derivative of the information you had. Now in this case, we actually do have an equation. So it's not like us saying f of g of x, although it's the same thing. We actually have an equation of 2 of x. And I guess from past experience, this one kind of throws some people off because it feels simple enough that they kind of skip over it because it just feels like an X. And this is where most of the mistakes I'll see are made, just on the semi-easy ones. If it looks difficult, most of you go slower to try to like think through it, but this one doesn't. So, and then minus f of 2 of x times g prime of x. You know what? I wrote a 2 over here at the beginning, and then I stopped using the 2. Do you guys feel like you would need help filling this out with the 2? Because I definitely can if you want help with that. Thank you. See, this is why I have you guys. It seems like it shouldn't be difficult to do work and talk at the same time, but it is. Should we move on to the next page, or does anybody want me to fill out those numbers? Because I certainly can. Just didn't know if you wanted help with it or not. Do you find using the table pretty easy? Okay, then I'll move on. Does this look easier or harder then? Not sure? Okay. Andrew, I think you went last. Pick somebody else, please. I know, this is why we use the number system, so we don't have to like, there's a lot of stress picking somebody else. So Luke? Hey, we're 2 Lukes. This is like a tiny class and we have multiple people. Yes.
Right,
What does g prime of 3 mean?
trying to find this.
Mhm.
that.
Perfect. So it means we're trying to find the slope at 3. And if you have a picture, we're just basically going to look at the picture and try to estimate the slope. You wouldn't be asked for an exact answer unless it was like a straight line that you could easily figure out slope. So this one's definitely going to be an estimate, which, I mean, it says, but it's kind of a given even if it didn't say it, because we wouldn't know without an equation. So I go to x equals 3, and I look at g, which is the curvy one. F is the one that's kind of straight lines. What would you guess that slope would be about?
They call it negative 1/4 or something.
Oh, that's pretty good. So I was going to say roughly negative 1/2, honestly, because I just didn't put much thought to look into it. Negative 1/4 absolutely could be pretty accurate too. As long as your answer was smaller than negative 1, it'd be correct. So 0 would be flat. Negative 1 would be a 45-degree angle. It's really hard to draw a line on here. That would be negative 1. So we know it's in between there somewhere. So as long as that was your answer, that'd be great. These are difficult to give on a test because it's really hard to give an actual answer to correct. Good. Okay, very good start. Luke, should we just choose the other Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've always got a safety net. You can always just say Luke. Thoughts on B? Yeah, that's like a lot more stuff.
I guess
Before we look at the picture, how would we set up the derivative? Never mind. When I first looked at this, I thought we were doing the derivative of f of g of 3. So this is just f prime of g of 3, okay?
is it pretty straightforward? Like you just plug in the numbers and
Should be.
okay. So then
I haven't done it yet, so.
g of 3 will probably be just under 5.
Okay, how come?
On the graph, y is a little bit under 5 or at 5.
So are you talking about this straight line right here?
No,
Where are you talking about then?
g of 3.
So g of 3 is right here.
What's that function? Is that correct?
Oh my god. This is not a great start. Wait, did I? Oh, the other one was g. Okay. So g of 3, yes. You said 5. Yeah, okay, good. I was really wondering where you were getting 5 from. Okay, and then what's f prime of 5?
I don't remember what it is. Or point.
So it is at a point, it's a sharp point. So for us to be able to find a slope, the slope from the left and the right have to match.
And that one.
This one would not, so sharp points are always no slopes. Because there is no slope, or it's not differentiable. So F. So if you were to have a free response question, you would need to kind of explain the information that was there. You can't just answer no, like no solution or doesn't exist. Obviously, multiple choice, you just pick the correct answer. So f is not differentiable at x equals 5. So f prime of g of 3 does not exist. Undefined would be fine. There's all sorts of different ways you could say it. Okay, good. The only other one I wanted to try was an h. And that's because h was f of g of x. So I guess we can pick C or F. I'm guessing you guys don't really care. No, because C includes B. So let's go to D. Let's go to F. So when I was looking at C, H prime of 3 is the same thing as saying F prime of G of 3 times G prime of 3. And we just found out that F prime of G of 3 has no answer. So we won't do C. Let's do F. H prime of 7. I can't see it on the top anymore. Was I correct? Is H f of G of X?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't G of f of X. So H is f of G of X. H prime would be f prime of G of X times G prime of X. So H prime of 7 would be f prime of G of 7 times G prime of 7. Now I'm going to guess this is probably the portion of the question that's the hardest for you. I know looking at the graph isn't terrible, but obviously, like me, you could read the wrong line. You could look at something different. Mark, were you asking a question on this, or was it?
No.
Okay. Because I saw your hand was up, and I. Luke, who's going to help me with the last question?
I think you can choose it.
I thought you were going to say me. I was going to. No, that defeats the whole point of this. I can choose it. We need to pick another new person. So we can either go with Tyler or Ethan. Or do you want to, like, hive-minded a little bit? I mean, like, you're related, so, like, you should have, like, one brain. Like, you should be able to telepathically link. Oh, that's definitely not true? Oh, wow, okay. I don't care which one of you answers it. You can take it together. You can. Rock, paper, scissor it. I don't care. How do you guys decide things at home?
I guess I did.
All right, that works. You decide it.
Okay, you do it.
That was easy. Can you help me fill this out? And I can certainly give you a hand if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, which one was it? What? Tyler, Ethan? Okay.
So, I don't know what a good estimate of G prime of 7 would be, but I think it's like around like 1/4 for the slope of that.
1/4? I was going to say 4.
Oh,
That's
that's
at
that's-
9. That's at 9.
There's a good chance I'm going to re-record this later. What the heck? Oh, now I can't even move it. I'm really glad you guys are here this morning. Let's pretend that was the first time. Yeah, I'm okay with 1/4. I mean, it's not directly on the bottom, so it's not 0. So it's obviously just a really small number. How come you chose G prime first, though?
Uh,
No reason?
yeah, it's just a lot. So.
Okay.
Then G of 7 is just a little below 3.
Yeah. 2 3/4, sure. So F prime of about 2.75.
Yeah.
F was the angly one. 2.75. Oh, now I see why that one was chosen. It was chosen so that we could get the point on that straight line. So that it wasn't on the end of the line, so it was undefined. It's actually kind of hard to see on my computer screen. Is it -2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, I believe this is the crosshair. Okay, but either way, the way you approached it was perfect. You were just kind of choosing individual things, working your way out. So roughly -0.5. I'd be good with that. And since the 1/4 is an estimate, as long as your answer is close to that, it'd be good. Okay, that's the whole section, which is kind of awesome from your viewpoint. This whole section was just about learning to do derivatives when you don't have direct information. It's not even learning. You guys have done it before, but they haven't really ever been compiled together. So I mentioned it yesterday that we're planning on having a quiz mid next week. So we're going to be done with 3.2 today. And then that should give us roughly 3 days to do 3.3. Now, I mean, having said that, 3.3 I believe was implicit derivatives. I don't know. Can you turn your page a couple? Is it implicit derivatives?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to go slower. So my plan is you're going to get the rest of the hour today to work on the homework from this one, which is probably going to go decently quick. Tomorrow I will teach implicit derivatives. Friday is when I have a doctor appointment. So you're going to get that time to work on as much of implicit derivatives as you can. Like, my goal is I'm going to hope to go through all of 3.3 on Thursday. And then you would get all of Friday to work on it. And then Monday, I thought would work really good for us to go over all of the homework. Like, just be able to answer questions the whole time. And then Tuesday, we can review the first 3 sections. Wednesday, take the quiz. Feel okay? Okay. And then longer term, our goal is obviously to take the Unit 3 test before we leave for break. Because you come and get back after almost 2 weeks, and remembering that would not work well.
And are we gonna take like 2 quizzes then a test, like Mr. Stover's class, or are we gonna just take the quiz and then the test?
Huh?
Like for Mr. Stover, we'd always have like the second part of the chapter quiz like 2 days before the test.
I think we only did that one time, didn't we?
We did that twice for us.
I don't know, did we? I'm pretty sure we gave the same quizzes. I think we partially did that because the units were so long, so that you would kind of see how you were doing before the test.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily about like trying to get in that many quizzes.
Okay.
It was just kind of how long it takes, so you know where you're at. So we'll probably be doing that again in, maybe not Unit 4, because that's not that long either. This unit, no. It's not the plan. I guess if we have a lot of time, we could, but it's not like we're aiming to do that.
Yeah.
Anything that goes in the summative category, we make the same. The formative category can be whatever, because I know he gave those daily quizzes, I believe, a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So those just kind of went in your formative category. Those don't need to be the same. All right, I'll stop there.